Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Hearthstone Ladder Climb. My name is Ikkaris, this is Ikkaris Gaming, and today is episode 20 of our series where we're taking a look at my Hearthstone gameplay as I try to climb all the way to Legend. We're back on track today, we're back into Ranked, and we are running Even Shaman, which of course is one of the, it's one of my more favorite decks in the game at the moment. It's not necessarily the strongest. It's not really a tier 1, not the top tier deck, but it's a lot of fun to play. And it's a very flexible deck. It can be, it has a lot of options. A lot of win conditions, a lot of ways for you to win the game. So we mulligan Hagatha the Witch there. It doesn't really do us much good. The idea with this deck is to build a giant board as soon as you can. Try to get out as many little minions as you can to then be able to cheat out one of your big minions like the sea giant early. So we go ahead and just hit the hero power button. We get the healing totem, which is great. We have some options here on turn 2. We can use Earthen Might to be able to hit our opponent's face, make the healing totem a little bit more durable. If you can get a wide board set up and get one of those healing totems that's tough to remove, it can be, you can just win the game very quickly with this deck. So we're just kind of deciding. I personally like to use Murkspark Eel on a minion to be able to remove a minion, so that's why we go ahead and play the Earthen Might there. Earthen Might's great if you have it later in the game and can play it on, say, for instance, the Fire Plume Phoenix, which we had. But that's you want to establish a heavy presence early with this deck, to give yourself options, because there's not really a lot of comeback potential. There's not really a lot of removal outside of Hagatha, and then even then it's only 3 damage. So if you have a board of a bunch of four health minions, you're in trouble. So our opponent plays a greedy sprite. The idea there was to play the knife juggler and then use the hero power, hoping that the knife juggler would hit the greedy sprite, which it did. We had a 50-50 shot and it came up heads, came up great for us in that instance. It is unfortunate that it gives our opponent an extra mana crystal, but Druid has a ton of ramp potential anyway, so it's not the end of the world to kind of give them the extra mana there. I'm not too concerned about that. Obviously Wrath on this turn, kind of unfortunate, because the next turn we could have played Saronite Chain Gang, got 2 extra free damage, but you never expect a knife juggler to last very long. Ideally, if you can play the either Saronite Chain Gang or the Primalfin Totem, which we just got with the knife juggler, that's like the dream combo, because then you just get a bunch of free damage right away. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, but we're still in good shape. We've got the heal totem, we've got Saronite Chain Gang, we've got extra spell damage. Spell damage doesn't really help us too much with this deck. We only really run Zap, which it goes from 2 damage to a minion to 3 damage to a minion. Not that great. It doesn't buff our Fire Plume Phoenix or anything, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's all right. So we get one of the most important cards in this deck, the Flametongue Totem, and you can see it makes an immediate impact. It gives us, instead of a useless, more or less useless minion with our spell damage totem, it becomes a 2/2. And we see one of the other more popular cards in the game today, the Mossy Horror, obviously deletes every minion with 2 or less attack. Kind of unfortunate. Not a lot of druids run Mossy Horror though, so we were kind of caught off guard here, because you typically see Mossy Horror used against druid because of cards like Spreading Plague, where if you build a wide board, especially for our Even Shaman deck, if you build a huge wide board and if you don't have the right cards to deal with a Spreading Plague that pops up, you can have a real hard time clearing all those little 1/5 minions. So it's kind of unusual that we see Mossy Horror against us, but we gotta find a way to win regardless. It's unfortunate that we get our Genn deleted there, but again, you know, Genn, it's not the greatest card. It's just kind of, you just kind of play it, you know, if you don't really have anything else to do on a turn. So what we're thinking here, again, like, you know, as I was saying earlier, the goal is get, you know, a wide board to be able to cheat out your, you know, cards like our Sea Giant, which we have. And you can see now the cost in one turn just went from 10 to 4. We just put a ton of minions on the board that reduce that cost and give us a big minion to help ourselves out. So we're kind of hoping that our opponent doesn't have Spreading Plague, because again, this is where Spreading Plague could really hurt us, because we only have 5 damage on the board versus having, you know, 25 health potentially, or rather 20 health from our opponent. But we go and get, again, you know, one of the best cards in this deck, the Flametongue Totem, and we can set up what I like to call the conveyor belt. One of the things that you need to pay attention to in this deck especially is your board positioning, which is kind of an unusual thing for Hearthstone. You know, a lot of decks you don't really need to worry about it, but with Even Shaman, with your totems and your positioning, you kind of, it's something that you need to consider and can really take advantage of. And you can see here, so now I got an extra 2 free damage out of our Primalfin Totem. It spawns its extra 1/1 minion that's now basically a free 3/1. So we get 3 free damage every turn now until our opponent does something about this Primalfin Totem. So, you know, we're in pretty good shape here. Even if we do get Spreading Plagued, we've got the Fire Plume Phoenix and the Murkspark Eel to give us extra damage. We've got the 3 free damage coming off of our 1/1 Murloc that gets spawned every turn, and obviously we've got our Mountain Giant just to be able to burn through one on its own. So, you know, at this point, we're probably thinking we don't want to play many other minions because of that Spreading Plague, and just kind of build up our hand, because this deck doesn't really have a lot of card draw. The best way to fill up your hand is honestly to have Hagatha, and then, you know, play a bunch of minions and then fill up your hand with spells. But even then, you know, you can kind of run out of gas fairly quickly. Now we can see our opponent's kind of looking at dropping a spell here. He's got 1 mana left, and obviously it's Naturalize. Not the end of the world. You know, it is unfortunate that we didn't really get a lot of value out of our Sea Giant, but we do get 2 cards out of it, and so now all of a sudden our hand is looking okay. And also just to go back, I do find it strange that a Druid would run Mossy Horror, and especially 2 of them. Most decks only run 1, but to see a Druid with 2 Mossy Horrors is kind of strange, because, you know, some of the most popular archetypes for Druid now is Token Druid, which runs a bunch of 2-cost minions, or rather 2-attack minions or lower, and you also have Spreading Plague, which is one of the best cards for Druid. So it is a little bit strange. That's kind of how we've gotten caught out here twice, is that you just don't expect there to be 2 Mossy Horrors in any deck, much less in a Druid deck. So we're kind of looking at our options here. We've got our 2 Murkspark Eels. We've got Fire Plume Phoenix. Spellbreaker doesn't really help us. There's no effect to silence. So what we do instead is play the Arcane Dynamo. Kind of looking at our options here. Volcano doesn't really help us that much. Stormbringer doesn't really help us that much because we don't have too many minions on the board. But Eureka, you know, with this deck running Alakir, the Windlord, and also Kalimos, we may be able to cheat out one of those minions using Eureka. So that's kind of the thought process there. So we'll just kind of see what our opponent does. Gets rid of our taunt. That's fine. And so next turn we've got 10. You know, we can play the Spellbreaker, Fire Plume Phoenix, and the Murkspark Eel just to get some more board presence, but it doesn't really help us. But now we've got something that we can use our Spellbreaker on. He goes ahead and cubes the Mossy Horror. And so obviously the silence effect just gets rid of those extra Mossy Horrors, and we're not too worried about the cubes. We just go ahead and go face, put a little bit more pressure on our opponent. One thing, I think the logic behind that is that Druid has so much armor gain with Ferocious Howl, with Branching Paths, and you know, a bunch of other cards like that you can kind of get overwhelmed, and we don't have too many big minions. You know, both of our sea giants have been dealt with. He goes ahead and cubes his previous cube, which again, this is kind of a strange choice. You're not really sure exactly what he's going for there, because all that's going to happen if I kill his cube, just 2 more cubes are going to come out, and then those won't have a death rattle, and those won't summon anything. You know, he won't get those 2 Mossy Horrors. But I guess this is kind of the only play he has. You know, he obviously doesn't have Spreading Plague. He would have played it. And obviously after playing the cube, you don't have enough mana. You only have 5 mana. It's a 6 mana spell. And so this is where having Earthen Might can really come in handy. You know, we can play it on our Fire Elemental to not only buff it up to a big 8 damage minion, but also add another elemental to our hand. And so with it only being a 2 mana spell, you know, we can play a bigger minion, which we of course see as the Tar Lurker. But what we instead do is just go for face damage, and you can see the reason being we have exact lethal. Didn't really have time to do the math here as I was doing the commentary, but in the moment we were checking the math, looking for lethal, and GG. So we're working our way up the ranks. We're in rank 12, 3 stars, and we're just going to keep on going. Now, between this video and the next video, there was a lot of games that I played that I did not record. And I was actually running our Death Rattle Hunter. So in the next couple of videos, I think we're going to be back to Death Rattle Hunter, but the climb has been significant. Just today, I made it all the way up to rank 7. So there's going to be a lot of higher level games coming your way. And one other thing is I think we're going to be starting to try to maybe put out like some Overwatch content on another channel, on another playlist on this channel. So if anybody's interested in that, I think that's going to be coming down the pipeline in the near future. So keep an eye out. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.